So you guys know that I have been extremely critical of this Little Mermaid live action remake. I didn't like the whole race swap thing. And let me just be clear about this, all right? It's not about the actress being black, all right? That's not the issue, all right? I don't mind having a black mermaid, all right? The problem is twofold. And actually the problem is twofold, but they both have the same underlying issue here, and that is the lack of consistency and the hypocrisy from Disney and from, Disney defenders. All right? Um Here's the issue with it. Number 1, do we just not give a damn about being faithful to the source material anymore? Do we just not give a damn? Are we really just going to be hypocrites here? Because we talk all the time about how, well, you can't have cultural appropriation of an African story, or you can't have cultural appropriation of an Asian story, or blah 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 blah. Mean old white people. You can't appropriate certain cultures, but yet here we have The Little Mermaid, which is based off of Hans Christian Andersen's original story, The Little Mermaid, which Hans Christian Andersen is Dutch, I believe, Finnish, Dutch, something like that. I think he's Dutch. So obviously a white dude. Obviously a white dude. Uh, in the book, The Little Mermaid is described as white with red hair. All right. I was informed by one of my subscribers, several of my subscribers actually, that she is described as white with red hair. So that means that The Little Mermaid being a Dutch story, it is of that culture. So it's not cool to appropriate culture from certain parts of the world, but it is okay to appropriate culture from other parts of the world just based on race. What I am asking for here is freaking consistency and stop with the hypocrisy. Either it matters or it doesn't matter. It can't matter in certain cases. You can't pick and choose. You can't say, well, when we're talking about this culture, you can't appropriate this culture. But if we're talking about that culture, oh, you can appropriate that culture. Why? Based on what logic? Based on what reasoning? That's what I'm asking for. And don't give me some emotional bullshit. I don't care about your emotional argument. I want you to tell me the logic and the reasoning as to why. And if you don't have that, then you're being a hypocrite. It's that freaking simple. If it's wrong to culturally appropriate one, and that's the thing. If you had a fairy tale, if you had an ancient story from Africa and you wanted to adapt that into a movie, yeah, I expect most of the people playing that are going to be of African descent. Makes sense. I wouldn't change it. If you're going to have a Chinese story, most of the people are probably going to be Chinese. Fine, good, great, awesome. That's what I would want. But if you're going to have something from the Dutch, they're probably going to be white. I mean, come on. And look, it'd be fine if we were talking about some random mermaid story. Like if you wanted to come up with some news story about mermaids, fine. Make the mermaid black. Awesome. It may be wonderful. Don't care. But this is Hans Christian Andersen's The Little Mermaid. That's number 1, is the hypocrisy of this whole thing. Number two is that this is a remake of Disney's The Little Mermaid. Now, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I thought that the whole point of these remakes was to try and show what these animated movies and these animated characters would look like in real life. What would this look like in live action? What would this look like if it was real? I thought that was the whole idea behind these remakes. So if you're not trying to make these live action versions of the characters as accurate as possible to their animated counterparts, what's the point of the remake? What's the point? I'm thinking to myself, listen, even as a kid, I always wondered, like, what would these characters look like if they were real? What would Ariel look like if she was real? Ariel in that movie is white with red hair. That's what she looks like. So if I am going into this with the notion of what would Ariel look like in real life? What would she look like live action? You have to find someone that's white with red hair. If you're going to start race swapping everybody, then what's the point of the remake in the first place? Because you're taking away the original premise of the remake, which is to ask the question and to explore the idea, what would these characters look like in real life? If you're not going to be accurate to the original animated films, you're taking away that initial premise. And at that point, what is the point of the remake? I think I know what the point of the remake is, and the point pisses me off because it comes from a very dark place. If you start race swapping all of these characters, if you start and that's not the only thing they've done. Apparently, like, there's this whole change to the Ariel and Prince Eric's romance. If you start changing everything from the original movie, what you're saying is that there's a problem with that original movie. Now, I grew up with these films. I grew up with Aladdin. I was a 90s kid. I grew up with Aladdin. I grew up with Beauty and the Beast. I grew up with Hercules. I grew up with The Lion King. I grew up with The Hunchback of Notre Dame. I grew up with The Little Mermaid. So when you start telling me that there's something wrong with those movies, when you start telling me that you're ashamed of those movies, when you start telling me that you're ashamed of the history of Disney, you're ashamed of the legacy of Disney, what you're saying is that my childhood was awful. That these things that meant so much to me as a kid, that I'm a bad person for liking them. That I should embrace new Disney and give the middle finger to old Disney and take all those childhood memories and those childhood experiences and those childhood feelings, and I just need to take a big old stinky dump on them because they were bad. Because I should be ashamed of growing up in that era. Because Disney as it stands today is ashamed of their history. They're ashamed of their past. That's what you're telling me. When you do shit like this, all right, I don't have to explain to you why this is bad. I'm doing it anyways. You have to explain to me why was it necessary to change the original look of The Little Mermaid? Why was it necessary for this remake to exist? Why is it necessary for any of these live action remakes to exist? Why is it necessary to change the story? What was wrong with The Little Mermaid, the original animated film? What was so wrong with it that it needed to be fixed, that it needed to be changed? Because you don't change stuff for no reason. You don't change things just because you feel like changing them. There's always a reason behind everything. There's a reason as to why you're doing it. And I think I know the reason. It's because you're ashamed of it. You're ashamed of your history. You're ashamed of your past. You're ashamed of the company you used to be. You're ashamed of what Disney was in the 90s. The Disney that I grew up with, the Disney that I fell in love with, the Disney that meant so much to me as a kid, the Disney that when I went to Disney World in the year 2000 as a little kid, and I was just so excited because I love these movies and I love this company and I love the magic of Disney and I love what they make me feel. You're telling me that is shameful? Otherwise, why would you change it? Do you know how much that hurts Disney? I grew up with you. I've given you money. My parents have given you money. My grandparents have given you money. You have existed because of people like me who have grown up with your stuff and supported you. And now you're taking a dump on all of that? You know how hurtful that is? And then you still expect me to walk into the theater and give you my money when you want to take a shit on my childhood? You want to insult me for my loyalty, my years of loyalty to you as a fan and as a customer? I mean, what other reason would you have to change this other than you're ashamed? You're ashamed of who you used to be. You're ashamed of your history, which is a fantastic history. God, the history of Disney is amazing. And you're ashamed of that. And you're ashamed of your fans. You're ashamed of what you used to be. That is the only reason you would change all this stuff. And now I'm starting to see the whole purpose of these live action remakes. I was mistaken. The premise of these live action remakes, I thought, was to bring these classic stories accurately to life on the big screen, to take these original animated films and to bring them to life in live action on the big screen, to ask the question, what would The Little Mermaid, that original 1980s film, what would The Little Mermaid look like if she was real? What would Ariel look like if she was real? To take that original premise of asking what these films would look like if they were real, which is a fun premise, a cool premise, a neat premise. I thought that was the premise, but I was wrong. I see what the premise is now. The premise is, this is what's going through Disney's mind. This is what's going through the higher-ups' minds. We're ashamed of the company we used to be. We're ashamed of all those classic films we put out. So you know what? We're going to fix that. We're going to come out with these live-action remakes. We're going to change them. And we're going to make people try and forget about those stupid, evil, old animated movies. We're going to come out with these live action remakes, and this is going to be the new Disney. This is going to be the Disney that we can be proud of. Oh, our fans that brought us this far, that made us this wealthy, screw them. We got the blue-haired widow. We got the blue-haired weirdos on Tumblr. That's our new fan base. This is your way of trying to rewrite history, trying to rewrite the past, trying to kill the past. I mean, screw you guys. All right, so according to the Daily Mail, The Little Mermaid receives mixed reviews from critics who praise Hal Bailey's performance as Ariel, but claim the live-action remake can't escape its animated legacy. And it shouldn't, because those animated films will always be classics. And that's nothing against Hal Bailey. I'm sure she's a great actress. From what I hear, she's fantastic in the role. She makes a fantastic Ariel. And good for her. Like, I'm not saying anything against her. Good for her. Great. Awesome. I hope she goes far, and I hope she has a wonderful acting career. But you know what these reviews, and I've seen a few of these reviews now. You know what these reviews remind me of? Batman versus Superman, where people will say, it's got its problems, it's got its issues, but Ben Affleck is a great Batman. There was a lot of reviews, a lot of early reviews about Batman versus Superman that said that. The movie has problems, but Ben Affleck is a great Batman. That's the vibe I'm getting from this. The Little Mermaid has problems, but Hal Bailey is a great Ariel, and I'm sure she is. Listen, her singing voice in the trailers is really good. But can we get her to play Tiana or something? And that brings me, this will be my final point before we wrap up this segment of the live stream. Before we wrap up this topic. If they do a live action Princess and the Frog, would it be acceptable to race swap Tiana? I wouldn't want that. I like the Princess and the Frog. I like Tiana. I wouldn't want to see that. I wouldn't want her to be race swapped. But would it be okay? And if not, why? Why is it not okay to race swap Tiana, but it is okay to race swap Ariel? How can no one see that that's an obvious double standard? That's an obvious hypocrisy. And how can people be okay with that? How can people be okay with such a double standard? I hate hypocrites, man. I hate hypocrites. There's there's few things in this world that piss me off more than hypocrisy. And God bless it, there is so much hypocrisy in today's world. It is absolutely frustrating. If you have a reason as to why it's not hypocritical for us to race swap one character but not another, I'm willing to listen. But I see hypocrisy all over it. And now I think there's like this whole thing going on with the Nani from Lilo and Stitch. They want to do a live action Lilo and Stitch remake. And apparently like it's another race swap, and it's like the reverse reaction. To where apparently like she's not Hawaiian enough or whatever. And it's like, oh, so when they race swap one kind of character with another kind of character, oh, then it's a problem, but not vice versa. I'm tired of the hypocrisy. I want consistency. I demand consistency. If you cannot give me that in an argument, step aside. You don't belong in the debate. If we're going to have these arguments and we're going to have these debates, you better bring a consistent argument with logic and reasoning and not your feelings. I'm tired of people's feelings dictating their arguments. It is so frustrating. So we'll see how this movie does. Am I going to go see it? Probably not. I don't think I've seen a Disney movie all year. I haven't seen Guardians of the Galaxy 3. I really don't plan to because I'm so fed up with Marvel. I didn't see Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, and thank God I didn't because apparently that movie was god awful. Probably not going to go see this either. Just because I'm tired of this. I'm tired of being hurt by. I'm tired of this abusive relationship that is Disney. I am tired of it. If you want my money, you will treat me with respect. I am not a resource for you to drain. I am a human being, and you are an entertainment company, and I expect to be entertained in a respectable way. And if you cannot do that, you do not get my money. Is that clear? I would rather be on this live stream. I'd rather be on this channel every single week, putting out videos, hyping Disney up, praising Disney, because I used to feel that way. Back before the whole Star Wars debacle, I loved Disney. I thought Disney could do no wrong. They were putting out banger after banger. It was amazing. They were one of my favorite companies, if not my favorite company. And it's just been bullshit after bullshit after bullshit for the last decade or so. And I am so tired of it. And I'm tired now. I'm done. I'm done. I'm going to bed. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys for watching. All right. Give me your thoughts on this whole Little Mermaid situation. Like, if I'm wrong, let me know. And I'm open for debate. But this is the reasons that I feel the way that I do. If the original Little Mermaid film had come out and Ariel was black in that movie, I would not have a problem. But I don't know. I think I've explained myself well enough. If you disagree, let me know why in the comments. I am willing to have that debate, but you better bring consistent arguments, because don't waste my time with inconsistencies. And for the love of God, do not bring some bull crap argument about, like how this is, compensation for some grievance done between the races centuries ago. I don't want to hear it. I'm talking about the Little Mermaid. I, okay. I need to stop before I get just so pissed off that I say something I'm going to regret, because I'm just okay. I'm done. Comment down below, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. You guys know what to do. You guys know what to do. All right. Check out the Patreon, and I'll see you guys later. This is JeskerJames with a Z, and I am signing out.